This is the Lessons in Positivity Videocast. Here's your host, Scott Peterson.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Lessons in Positivity. Angela Kulikov, a tennis player from the University of Southern California, who will be going pro very soon, is our guest today. Like many of you, Angela felt like she was working extremely hard, but not seeming to get over the hump in terms of success. The root of the problem was the pressure she was putting on herself. We hope you are inspired by her story on this week's Lessons in Positivity. We're joined by Angela Kulikov, a two-time All-American at USC and team captain for USC, University of Southern California, that is. Now on the tour, on the International Tennis Federation tour. And Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I hate to always start interviews kind of from the negative, because this is positive athlete, right? But I think your story is so important because what we know now about you is that you've been this team captain for 2 years and a nationally ranked doubles player and had all of this success, but it started out kind of tough because you were a good player, but you were struggling and you were at a point in your life where you almost like said, hey, I don't think this is worth it. I'm not getting any better. And I'm almost thinking about quitting tennis. Can you talk a little bit about that time in your life?
For sure. Tennis is a very unique sport, especially the way it's viewed and the way development is viewed. So growing up, I was identified really young, maybe 7 or 8 years old, as kind of one of these top prospects that was intended to go all the way, right? And that meant winning, or at that time meant you're going to win Wimbledon by 16, So it's funny because the way I grew up in juniors, even going to college on a full scholarship, which is a tremendous accomplishment, was viewed already as kind of the worst case scenario. So even coming into college was already difficult because I came in with those ideas in my head that I failed by being here and by not being at Wimbledon already. As only an 18-year-old kid, I've already failed at what was expected of me.
Wow.
So already on that note, I'm coming in as a freshman. I played bottom of the lineup. I played number 6 singles and number 3 doubles, which are the 2 lowest spots. And you'd think that at that point, if you're playing in college and playing at the bottom of the lineup and losing, what are you? So it was a very difficult time. And I think freshman year, I had to, I really think I spent that entire year wrestling that and just having to kind of, for the most part, just kind of wrestle that idea out that I have already completely failed and there's nowhere to go. And then my sophomore year, I climbed a little. I kind of, my progression through college was exactly what it's supposed to be. It was this climb from 6 to 4 to 2 to 1. But the next year was trying to kind of reframe, okay, you know what, maybe let me even accept that I failed. If you want to go ahead and say you're a failure, let's accept that you failed and then let's restart. And let's see if now we can build from here and we can find success. And I managed to do that to some degree my sophomore year. And then at the end of my sophomore year, I had this, really great training block. I had this whole summer where, I was training nonstop, sunrise till sundown. Work ethic has always kind of been something that came naturally for me, but dealing with the expectation that came from that, this idea that, okay, you've put in the time, you've put in the hours, you changed your mindset, you're doing everything correct. You now must be able to find some success. And then still not, because that's not how this works. It's not this perfect linear equation. That was for me really just the toughest piece.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I've heard you talk about the fact that, hey, if I put in 30 more, 40 more hours a week than one of the other, my teammates, this is going to make me better. And I think most kids are taught, well, if you work harder, you're going to be better. And so you have a little different take on that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
For sure. Yeah, I think it's something that came with experience and maturity, but understanding that there is so much more to sport than just hours of training and repetition and work ethic. So, I still find them to be very important pieces, probably the most important piece, but it's a little too simple to just view it as this equation that I did for a while that was just hours and repetition. You know, if I work longer and harder than you will, then I'll be more successful. It's a very simplified take on the way something as complicated as sport is. So you know, that was one of the biggest things that I'm very grateful for that I found after that, you know, crazy sophomore summer was in meeting Dr. Tiffany Jones, who was a sports psychology consultant that we hired for our team, and getting to start working on other aspects of my game that I knew were important. You know, sports psych is such a buzzword. We know the mental side is, you know, more important than the physical side. And I could say those words out loud, but of course I never thought them. But, you know, in working with her, in working with another sports psychologist at USC, and in developing this new appreciation for the whole other side of sport, and even the whole other side of life, was, I think, one of the keys to how I've been able to find so much success now, professional or in tennis and in life, and what helps me really turn it around.
So yeah, let's talk about that, because we've had Dr. Tiff on our show, and if anybody's watching this, make sure you go back over to Lessons in Positivity Extra and listen to Dr. Tiff. You are one who definitely listened to Dr. Tiff, but talk about that listening and how hard is it to hear some of the things maybe she has to say, you know, and self-awareness and some of those things. What type of things did she talk to you about? What type of things did you learn about yourself?
Yeah, Dr. Tiff she's funny, you know, what I love about her is how straight she shoots right off the bat. So I'll never forget this. When I first met her, I always joke she met me at my absolute worst, because I'm actually, you know, even when I am struggling, I'm the happiest, bubbliest, most energetic, you know, kid you've ever met. And she met me when I was really in the thick of just, I'm a failure times two, because this is the second time at that point, and I don't think I have this anymore. But I remember the first time we sat down, we didn't discuss my tennis. We didn't discuss, we didn't really go too much into my background or my childhood. She pulled out a piece of paper. She wrote "I am" at the top of it, and she handed it to me. And I'm a psych major, or I was a cognitive science major and applied psychology master's student. I knew exactly what that was. It's a, you know, classic, athletes don't have any other identity besides being athletes. And so I even kind of brushed off like, you know, Tiff, that's not the problem. I know I'm more than a tennis player. And she went, great, write it. And I stood there and I stared at this paper for a good 4 or 5 minutes after I gave my grand speech about how I know what this is, and I couldn't write anything. And it was kind of this huge moment that, as much as I, you know, developed this awareness of what else I'm supposed to be, I'm not. So she even had to help me write, and I still have it. I actually still have it in my backpack, actually, at all times. This list that only came out to like 6 things by the time I was done with it. But it was starting to get that, as much as I value my obsession with tennis, as much as I think that even now, as I've gotten older, as much as I think that's part of the reason why I found so much success, I was always going to be held back by the fact that this was the only thing I saw myself as. Mm-hmm. Because that means that every win doesn't even become a win, it becomes a job, and every loss becomes not just a loss, but an attack at my character and my personality and who I am. And there's no way to find success. It doesn't matter how many reps you take. It doesn't matter how much extra work you do. If every single time you're stepping out on a court, you think you're playing literally for your life, and so that you can look yourself in the mirror, there's just no world you're gonna be able to find success in that. So for me, that was and still is, I think, the foundation to where the biggest change came from.
How difficult was it to write down things that were more truly how you felt about yourself versus things that you felt maybe you thought wanted Tiff or somebody else to hear? Like, I'm going to write down the things that people will want me to hear, you know, what I think people want to, versus really digging deep and writing about yourself.
Not easy. You know, I was trying to avoid the surface level stuff, right? I didn't want to say, well, I'm a girl and I'm a daughter. And it was funny because Tiff actually pushed me and was like, but those are key pieces to your to your identity. Those actually are things that have a lot of meaning. But it's funny because I'm a little off topic, but when you were saying that, there was another list I wrote. We have a Tiff and my other sports psychologist, Dylan, here at USC, we have a joke about how much personal or mental or emotional work, whatever you want to call it, I do. I have hundreds of pages of Google Docs of just journals and lists and all these things. But there was another list I was challenged to write by Dylan, actually, that was all the truths I hold about myself. Mm-hmm. And this was a very negative list. This was kind of all the horrible things I say to myself and think about myself, and really encapsulated what my identity was. And there were things on that list that were about how I'm just a failure, how I'm an almost kid, I'm the hardest working nobody on the planet, you know. And it was funny to see how that list, and I keep it, and I still look back at it sometimes, how it evolved over time. And as I continued to do more work on myself, there was even a point where I took a look at that list about a year and a half later, and I responded to it. Like, I literally wrote back to it as if I was, you know, texting a friend who had told me these things. And at first it was just saying the words, just like doing that original tip list. It was just saying the words, okay, I'm this as well, I'm this as well. But it was me continuing to push myself to believe what I said. So, you know, a big piece for me in life in general has always been fake it till you make it. And I switched that, and I was reading another book Dr. Tiff gave me to, that was fake it until you become it. So kind of having these reaffirmations that this is what I am, this is how I behave, this is something I truly am, and then getting eventually to, I take pride in this. I even take pride in that initial terrible list I wrote about myself, because it's such a demonstration of how far I came and how far I'm continuing to come in my development as a player and as a person.
What a cool revelation to have. And now, so let's get into your matches then. So do you bring this, you've talked about it being in a zone. Does this zone include, you know, as you're playing a match, are you thinking, when those negative thoughts creep into your mind during a match, you know, you just missed a shot you know you should have made, it was just an easy, is it, what then triggers in your mind into this zone that you're in to get you back on track? And it was just one shot, and now I've got another point right now.
Right, and that's in tennis, you're dealing with this half the match. You know, tennis, people don't realize when you're successful, even if you win by a significant margin, you probably still lost 45 to 47% of the points you play. You can actually lose more points in tennis and still win the match. So that's key. For me, it was a lot of the work I did with Dr. Tiff in kind of developing that mental toolbox. So, you know, a lot of mindfulness training, a lot of having that ability to kind of watch my thoughts, I kind of call it. So instead of having a thought, which I can't control, you know, if I told you don't think about an elephant, you're going to think about an elephant. You know, so accepting, all right, there's a negative thought that entered my head, but I don't need to let it become me. I can kind of just accept, oh, that's not great. And, you know, there's the door, you can exit to the right. So using that, I've done a lot of work just with breathing and heart rate control. You know, part of my psych dorkiness comes from understanding, or for me, I like to kind of, the word I use is detach myself from this idea that, well, there's me and there's my body. So if I can, you know, just bring my physiological responses down, I can lower my heart rate, you know, that will help my neurons fire better. That will help calm down the hormones and neurotransmitters firing in my brain. So doing that work, and then having that security and confidence that I've done that work. And then I use triggers quite a bit. So I have kind of these present focused little ticks, maybe isn't the right word, but I have these games I kind of play with myself to bring myself into the present. So sometimes, you know, people who really know me will see them. I'll kind of do this thing with my fingers, or I start tapping my thumb because it helps me just kind of, it grounds me back into the moment I'm in. Or I'll tap my foot sometimes when I'm returning until it becomes the loudest and the only sound I hear, even though it's, you know, it's maybe the sound of a whisper. But yeah, it was developing that mental toolkit so that I know when something is happening, whether I'm doing it to myself or my opponent's doing it to me, that I feel like I have a response to it that's been trained and that even on my worst day or my toughest day or a very stressful environment, at the least I know I kind of showed up here with that toolbox and I can pull them out when I need to.
Right, and I was going to say, and you're playing a little more singles now, probably than you maybe even. Well, I guess you played a lot of singles in college as well, but you were known probably as a doubles player. The success, especially on the national level, number one ranked team going into the NCAA tournament and stuff. So, talk about doubles though, because not only do you have your own issues you have to deal with, you have a partner. And that partner is sometimes on and that partner is sometimes off. So how do you go about working with your tennis partner and maybe trying to kind of, exude some of that positivity and confidence when they're not playing darn well they're not playing very well?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, doubles actually always came easier to me because of that. I actually, challenge is maybe not the right word, but it is a challenge. I welcome that challenge in having to be accountable and responsible for myself and my partner. And I feel like actually it almost took, in a weird way, it took pressure off me to know that I'm not just out here playing for myself, to know that I'm playing for someone else and worrying about them. It's almost like I had less energy to worry about myself then.
Right.
But it's something that's, I think a skill one that gets overlooked quite a bit in tennis is having that ability, or actually people discuss this, that good doubles players play good doubles and great doubles players make their partners play great doubles. Because in that case, along with playing tennis, you're also trying to create the most safe and secure environment for your partner so that they know when they miss that they're not being judged, or that no one really plays doubles and is yelling at their partner, how could you miss that? But there's gestures, there's subtle things you'll see in facial expressions and in the words you use, so that will create pressure. And at the end of the day, you have to get that when your partner hits a forehand winner, you hit a forehand winner. When they hit a double fault, you hit a double fault. So you really have to see yourself as one. So I think for me, I've been very fortunate that my doubles partners have been my closest friends, and they've been people that I spent a lot of time with, obviously on court, but also off court. So I know them and they know me, which means I can pick up on, when they leave the blue zone. I know those cues. I also know the cues to help bring them back to the blue zone. I know the things to say to them. I know the things not to say to them. And I think one that I've more recently started to understand is important is communication about these things. So, it's uncomfortable sometimes to have conversations about a horrible performance, because, you don't want to rub it in. You kind of just want to move on and tell them, hey, I got you and I love you no matter what, it happens. But sometimes you still have to go in and dissect those things and go, hey, let's talk about how you felt and how I can help you better next time. And I think I've gotten much better getting older and getting more mature and more secure in our personal relationships to have those conversations. And I've been able to find even more success in doubles because of that.
We started the conversation at the low end, and I want to circle around to something pretty cool that happened to you, in the fact that Venus Williams asked you to hit with her. And so talk a little bit about that experience and she wouldn't just ask anybody to hit with her. And then, and did you have a chance to learn something as to why maybe she and Venus have had so much success?
Yeah, unbelievable experience. I'll tell you, she wouldn't ask just anyone. She didn't ask specifically for me. She asked for a college player from USC because she was around. But no. Maybe actually the greatest experience I had in college, even though it wasn't technically tied to it. But she asked for a player to hit with her. It ended up turning into a practice match, which I was nowhere near prepared for. I was already terrified to hit, short court in the warm up with her. And next thing I knew, the coach is going, "Are you cool if we start playing?" And in my head, my goal was just make sure you don't suck enough that she can get like something semi-productive out of this practice. It turned into this match, and it was I mean, one, just to be on the court with a legend like that was amazing. To see how professional she was about the entire practice. I've had a few opportunities to hit with high level pros, but just the amount of attention she gave to her warm up, to our short court warm up, to just those little basic things where most of us are kind of like singing a Justin Bieber song in our head as we're hitting. She was fully invested in that. And then even in playing this practice match, so I won a set. I won the first set. And a lot of times, especially with highest level pros, if they lose a practice set to some, dumb little college kid, they tap out mentally, they're like, I'm not playing well today. This stupid kid got lucky. Like, I'm done. I'm going to go home. And she got competitive and I loved it. She really was, we're going again. We're playing another set. And we did it, and she absolutely destroyed me in the second set, which again, I absolutely loved, because I was like, wow, I pushed Venus Williams. I got her to be this competitive with me. But it was just so cool to experience that. And then even, again, what that did for me, it's funny how these, random or unexpected moments in your life can, again, reshape your mindset and even your identity. So, as you mentioned, I saw myself first as a failure, and then eventually gravitated to, well, I'm a doubles player and I'm going to find success in doubles. And then after this, this was a singles match and I took a set off Venus Williams. So, obviously it's a practice match, but all of a sudden there was this shift. Hold on, I can play singles. And I remember I texted Dr. Tiff about it right away, because she loves Venus. And I kind of said that. I was like, Tiff, I think I can maybe play singles. And she kind of responded, of course you can, stupid. You just got to believe it, and then change your mindset about it. And it was cool, because after that experience, I all of a sudden not all of a sudden, I hate that word, because I did start to find, or I put work into that, but I did start finding success in singles. I played number 1 for my team. I was up to number 15 in the country, where the previous year I didn't even have a singles ranking. And it was just one of the things that's so interesting about my trajectory is really how quick it was, how it did seem to feel like it was all of a sudden or out of nowhere, but it wasn't. It was founded on hours and hours and hours of work on the court, off the court, being in the gym, and just with myself, mental and emotional work. And it was just really those small moments where something not necessarily clicked, but something unexpected happened that just completely changed my mindset and manifested in great success. So it's really cool now that I have this appreciation for how quickly things can change, because it gave me this newfound sense of optimism, that something good could be about to happen to you and could change everything for you. And I think when you approach life with that mindset, when you believe something good is about to happen, you behave in a way that's going to help something good or make the likelihood of that good thing happening to you go up.
Yeah, that's such great advice. And I think about all these young girls and even young men who are playing tennis. If you could go back, and I often ask this question to athletes that have been around and have experienced college and now and in the pros and stuff, is that if you could go back and talk to yourself back when you were middle or early high school, and could give yourself some advice, Angela, what would you tell young Angela?
Oof. Oh man, I want to give young Angela a beating sometimes for some of the things, not that I did, but just some of the things I thought and the way I viewed the world in general. I think, the biggest piece would have, and this sounds simple, would have just been take care of today. I think there was so much concern about expectation and, expectation from others, from my coaches, from my parents, from myself. I don't think the environment that was created or that I was in was ideal for that, but it never is, because I was the first child in my family, the first athlete in my family. No one, had the tools to cultivate the perfect mindset to be a professional athlete. And I also know all of it came out of love. They wanted and saw great potential in me. I had, the U.S. Tennis Association telling my parents that I was going to be the next great thing, that I was the chosen one, But I think it would just be I would want to tell her to not necessarily let those pieces go. It's impossible to tell a kid, don't think about that, but almost just be able to tell myself, worry about today. Just go to your practice, go to the match you're in, and just do what you can in this moment. And try to find a way to have trust. You know, it's again a cliche, trust in the process, but almost have faith in the trajectory that you're gonna take, and have trust and faith that you're gonna handle what's coming in front of you when you're there, because you are tough and you have the tools, and I would have the tools as I got older, but if you're so concerned with yesterday and tomorrow and today, I mean, there's no energy left to do anything about today. So, you know, if you can just trust that if you took care of this practice and this match, nothing horrible is going to happen to you if you lose. It's not the end of your career. You're not a failure. You just lost a tennis match, or you had a bad practice, and you have an opportunity again tomorrow to have a better one. And you can just focus on stringing those pieces together, getting a tiny bit better today than you were yesterday, getting a tiny bit better the next day, and then even seeing that, again, a cliche that you know, failure means I got worse or whatever, but failure is a great thing, because you actually, as long as there's intention and there's engagement in what you're doing, you can't possibly make yourself worse. You can miss, but you know, even in misses, you're getting better. So just be present, be in the moment you're in, fully try to engross yourself in what you're doing, and don't worry about tomorrow. And you know, that's kind of what happened here, right? The thing I was so terrified of happened, I guess. And I still managed to pull myself out, and I think I'm in a fantastic spot now. So I think, yeah, that would be the biggest one. Just stay here and stay here now, and take care of here now.
Well, you certainly have come through a long way, and from where you were to where you are now. I think we're going to have a whole bunch of new fans who are going to be following you. What's your Twitter handles that they can follow you on?
Both of them, Angela Kulikov, Twitter and Instagram.
Wonderful. Well, Angela, thanks for taking time to talk. This is such good information. I hope that kids will really listen to what you had to say, take in some of the practices that Dr. Tiff has talked to you about, and in writing some things down and being honest with themselves. You're such an inspiration, and we wish you all the best.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you, Scott.
We wish Angela all the best in her career, and I hope you learned something about yourself during that interview. Make sure you write down your thoughts about how you're feeling, and don't be afraid to discuss them with people you love and trust. We have other great video casts for you to watch, full of amazing perspectives from professional Olympic athletes. They're all available on the video section of our website at positiveathlete.org. And if you're interested in reading inspirational stories of high school positive athletes, we'd love for you to check out our new book, The Positive Athlete. You can purchase the book on our website, which again is positiveathlete.org. Until next time, have a positive week, everybody.